I never thought I'd pull a gun on my own brother at his wedding rehearsal dinner. But there I was, the barrel of my old service revolver trembling in my hand, pointed right at his smug face while the string quartet screeched to a halt mid-dash, Winter Wonderland. The room full of silk-wrapped socialites gasped like they'd just seen Santa strip down to his long johns. And my mother, God, my mother, clutched her pearls so hard they might have drawn blood. "Avery, what in God's name?" she started, but I cut her off with a laugh that sounded more like a sob. "It wasn't loaded. That gun. I wasn't there to kill anyone. Not yet.
Anyway."
But damn if it didn't feel good to watch the color drain from Harlan's cheeks. The golden boy who'd ruined my life without a second thought. That was 6 months ago. The spark that lit this whole powder keg.
Now, here we are.
Christmas Eve in the heart of Manhattan. Snow whipping against the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Grand Plaza Hotel like it's trying to claw its way inside. The place reeks of money, old money. The kind that buys forgiveness and buries skeletons. And me, I'm the skeleton they thought they'd buried deep enough. They called me too poor like it was a punchline. A family joke to trot out over eggnog while they sipped Dom Perignon in their cashmere sweaters. "Avery's scraping by on ramen and regrets," Harlan would say, slapping me on the back like we were still kids building forts in the Hamptons. But tonight, under the glow of that ridiculous crystal chandelier, they're about to learn what happens when the poor kid stops playing nice. It started 20 years back, in that sprawling McMansion in Greenwich, Connecticut, where the Winters family, my family, ruled like minor deities. Dad was a Wall Street shark, Mom a socialite who could charm a boardroom or a boudoir with equal ease. Harlan, my big brother by 3 years, was the heir apparent, quarterback, prom king, the one who got the trust fund bump at 18 while I got the hand-me-downs and a pat on the head. I idolized him. Hell, I would have died for him. And, in the end, I almost did, by letting him drag me into his mess, then taking the fall when it all went to shit. We were 22 and 25, fresh out of college, when Harlan got cocky. He was interning at Dad's firm, Winters and Associates, sniffing around high-stakes mergers like a fox in a henhouse. One deal, a shady real estate flip with offshore accounts, went south fast. Embezzlement charges loomed, the kind that could have landed him in federal prison for a decade. Dad found out, of course. But instead of cutting Harlan loose, he looked at me, the reliable screw-up with a poli-sci degree and no prospects, and said, "Fix this, Avery. For the family."
So I did.
I forged the signatures, shuffled the paper trail, made it look like I'd been the one dipping into the cookie jar. A plea deal later, I was doing 18 months in a low-security joint upstate, while Harlan got a slap on the wrist and a promotion. "You're the strong one," Mom whispered as they drove me to intake, her Botox-smooth face cracking just a little. "This will pass." It didn't pass. It festered. Out on parole after 14 months, I came home to a family that treated me like a ghost, invited to holidays out of pity, but seated at the kids' table with the cousins who still wet the bed. Harlan married Elena, that vapid blonde from the yacht club, and they popped out 2 perfect spawn while I bounced from dead-end jobs, bouncer in Brooklyn Dives, delivery guy in the pouring rain, anything to keep the lights on in my one-room walk-up in Queens. Every Christmas, they'd gather at the family estate, toasting to better days, and I'd show up in my thrift store parka, enduring the side-eyes. "Avery's too poor for the gift exchange," Harlan joked last year, passing me a 20 like I was a panhandler. The room tittered. Elena hid her smirk behind her flute of Veuve. Even Mom joined in, her laugh brittle as the icicles outside. But I kept my mouth shut, swallowed it down with the spiked cider. Because I had a secret, one I'd been nursing like a grudge wrapped in barbed wire. While I rotted in that cell, reading law books by the dim light of a shared bulb, I learned things. Dad's firm wasn't just shady, it was a goddamn syndicate. Harlan had taken the reins after Dad's heart attack 5 years back. Convenient timing. That, and turned it into a machine that chewed up whistleblowers and spat out lawsuits. I'd gathered evidence, bit by bit, emails, ledgers, recordings from a burner phone I'd smuggled out. Not enough for the feds. Maybe. But enough to burn them if I timed it right. And the Grand Plaza? That was the cherry on top. Harlan had sunk family money into buying it last year. A vanity project to launder the dirt and host his annual Winter's Wonderland Gala. Invite only. Black tie. The who's who of Manhattan's elite rubbing elbows with politicians who'd owe him favors come January. I got the invite by accident. Elena must have felt a twinge of guilt and added me to the list. Or maybe it was pity.
Either way, it was my in.
I spent my last paycheck on a rented tux that pinched at the seams, pawned my watch for a ticket on the Acela from Penn Station. As the train rattled into the city, snow blurring the tracks, I rehearsed my lines in my head. Not a speech, no. That'd be too easy. Something sharper. Something that'd split the room like a fault line. The lobby hit me like a gut punch. Velvet ropes. A 12-foot tree dripping with Swarovski. Carolers in Dickensian get-ups crooning Silent Night to a crowd that looked like they'd stepped out of A.J. at Crew Catalog. I flashed my invite at the door. The hostess, a girl half my age with a clipboard and a fake smile, squinting at my name like it was a typo. Avery Winters?
Oh.
Right this way. Sir.
Sir.
That stung more than the cold seeping through my thin soles. Up in the ballroom, it was a fever dream of excess. Waiters in crisp whites glided with trays of foie gras canapés and caviar bumps on silver spoons. A jazz trio swung jingle bells with a bebop twist, and the air hummed with laughter that tinkled like ice in scotch glasses. There was Harlan, holding court by the bar in a bespoke suit that probably cost more than my yearly rent. Elena draped on his arm like a trophy. Mom fluttered nearby, air-kissing a senator whose face I'd seen on too many cable news scandals. And the cousins,
Aunts,
uncles, the whole parasitic clan, toasting to fortunes that weren't entirely theirs. I grabbed a flute of champagne, free booze is free booze, and weaved through the crowd, nodding at faces that barely registered me. Avery, you made it, Harlan boomed when he spotted me, clapping my shoulder hard enough to slosh my drink. Up close, he looked every inch the kingpin, salt and pepper at the temples, a Rolex winking under the lights. Didn't think you'd show. Traffic from Queens. Huh. The jab landed soft. But it landed. Elena leaned in, her perfume cloying as regret. We saved you a seat at our table. With the singles. She winked, like it was cute. The table with the singles, code for the rejects. The divorcees. The ones who hadn't climbed the ladder. I forced a grin. Clinking glasses. Wouldn't miss it.
Bro.
Family first, right? Harlan chuckled, but his eyes flicked away, scanning for bigger fish. That's when I saw her, Lila, Harlan's assistant, the one who'd been feeding me scraps of intel for a year now. Sharp as a stiletto, with red hair and a conscience that hadn't fully atrophied. She'd quit last month, citing creative differences, but not before slipping me the final puzzle piece, The Grand Plaza's ownership docs, riddled with the same embezzled funds I'd gone down for. Lila caught my eye from across the room, nodded once, our signal, then melted into the crowd. Dinner was a blur of small talk and smaller bites. Rack of lamb, so tender it mocked my microwave meals. Salads with edible gold leaf that crunched like shattered dreams. Seated with the singles, a washed-up actor, a tech bro nursing a grudge against Silicon Valley, and Cousin Meg, who babbled about her essential oils MLM. I played the part. Laughed at their jokes. Nursed my wine. Let the warmth spread like a slow burn. Harlan's toast came midway through, to the winter's legacy, unbreakable, untouchable, and always a step ahead. Cheers rippled. Glasses chiming. I raised mine silently, tasting bile. That's when the whispers started. Someone at the head table, Uncle Ted, the blowhard with the third chin, leaned into Mom and muttered loud enough for the mic to catch it. Avery looks rough. Still on that factory line or whatever. Laughter bubbled up. Polite at first, then crueler. Harlan jumped in. Ever the showman.
Nah.
He's too poor for the line these days. Rides the subway with the rats.
Right?
Ave. The room erupted. A wave of hyena howls crashing over me. Elena tittered behind her napkin. Mom's smile froze. But she didn't stop it. No one did. I stood, chair scraping like a judge's gavel. The laughter died a little, curiosity prickling the air. Too poor. Huh, I said, voice steady as the winter wind outside. Funny.
Harlan.
Last I checked, poverty's a family tradition. Murmurs rippled. Harlan's brow furrowed. That first crack in the facade. What are you on about? Little brother? Save the drama for the eggnog. But I wasn't saving shit. I pulled the flash drive from my pocket, Lila's gift, disguised as a tacky Christmas ornament on my lapel, and held it up like a talisman. This is the drama. The kind that ends parties early. Gasps now. Real ones. I glanced at the double doors, where the hotel manager, a stiff-necked Brit named Hargrove, who'd taken my anonymous tip last week, hovered like a bad omen. Our eyes met. He nodded, almost imperceptibly. Ladies and gentlemen, I announced, raising my voice over the jazz trio's fade-out. Before we dig into dessert, a special announcement from the house. Head swiveled. Harlan's face went the color of the snowbank outside. Hargrove stepped forward, clearing his throat into the microphone that the waitstaff had so helpfully provided. Good evening, Winter's family and esteemed guests. It is with great regret that I must inform you of an immediate change in venue policy. The room hung on his words. Champagne forgotten. Effective tonight, the Grand Plaza is under new management. All outstanding debts, personal and corporate, owed by Winters and Associates will be called in full. Furthermore, due to irregularities in the acquisition paperwork, he paused, letting it sink in, his eyes locking on Harlan's. That the property reverts to its original lien holders. Your gala, Mr. Winters, is hereby concluded. Security will escort non-owners to the exits. Merry Christmas. Pandemonium. Chairs toppled as the elite scrambled, phones whipping out like six-shooters. Harlan lunged for me, face twisted in that familiar rage, the one I'd seen in the mirror during those prison nights. You son of a bitch. What did you do? His hands clamped my collar, breath hot with bourbon and betrayal. Elena shrieked, clutching the kids who'd been playing under the tree. Mom collapsed into a chair, fanning herself with the menu, her world cracking like fine china. I shoved him off, the flash drive still clutched in my fist. What did I do? I fixed it. Harlan. Like you fixed me by throwing me under the bus. That plea deal? The 18 months? Your screw up. My sentence. And this hotel? Built on the same dirty money. Call it karma, with a side of foreclosure. Security, burly guys in ill-fitting blazers materialized, peeling Harlan's fingers from my shirt. Ishbat Gurshash. Wild-eyed. As they dragged him toward the service elevator. You're dead to us. You hear me? Dead. The crowd parted like the Red Sea. Whispers turning to accusations. Is it true? Harlan embezzled? Avery went to jail for him? Lila appeared at my side. Her hand light on my arm, support, not salvation. You okay? She murmured. I nodded, but the victory tasted like ash. Mom approached then, her heels clicking like countdowns. Avery.
Why?
We could have talked. I echoed. The gun from that rehearsal dinner flashing in my mind, not loaded, but heavy with what-ifs. You let them call me too poor while you lived high on my silence. This isn't revenge.
Mom.
It's justice. Or as close as we get in this family. As the last guests filed out into the storm, coats whipping in the gale, the ballroom emptied like a deflating balloon. Harlan's empire, poof, in one announcement. But as I stood there, snow tapping the windows like impatient fingers, I felt the twist gut me. The drive in my hand, it held more than ledgers. Buried in the files was proof Dad hadn't died of a heart attack. Harlan knew, hell. He'd arranged the accident to seize control. And me, I just handed the cops everything on a platter, anonymously tipped to arrive by dawn. Was it worth it? The family splintered. Harlan facing bars instead of boardrooms. Mom's social circle evaporating like morning mist? Yeah. In the dark hours. But in the quiet ones, when the champagne buzz faded and the cold seeped in, I wondered if I'd just traded one cage for another. Because revenge doesn't fill the hole, it just lines it with sharper edges. And as the hotel lights dimmed, leaving me alone with the ghost of a tree shedding needles like tears, I realized the real announcement wasn't Hargrove's. It was mine. The poor kid was done playing ghost. But at what cost? The fallout hit like a nor'easter. The kind that buries Manhattan under feet of white and turns the streets into no man's lands. By Christmas morning, the tabloids were feasting, New York Post screaming, Winter's white Christmas meltdown, brother betrayal exposes embezzlement scandal, with a blurry shot of Harlan being cuffed outside the plaza. His tux rumpled. Elena wailing in the background. CNN looped Hargrove's announcement like it was the Zapruder film. Pundits debating if it was corporate vigilantism or the ultimate family feud. Social media exploded. Too poor for Winters trending. Memes of me as the avenging elf in a rented suit. Hell, someone even photoshopped my face onto Scrooge. Chains rattling with dollar signs. I holed up in my Queen's walk-up, blinds drawn against the gray light filtering through the grime-streaked windows. The radiator clanked like a death rattle, spitting lukewarm water that did nothing for the chill in my bones. Lila texted, "You did it. Proud of you." Coffee? I stared at the screen, thumb hovering.
Proud.
What a loaded word.
Yeah.
I toppled the throne, but the crown felt like thorns. Harlan was out on bail by noon, lawyered up with the firm's slush fund. Ironic. That and already spinning narratives. Avery's unstable. Prison broke him. This is extortion. Mom called twice. Voicemails laced with that old money tremor. Come home.
Darling. We can fix this.
Blood is thicker.
Blood.
As if it hadn't already stained everything. I didn't go home. Instead, I walked the 3 blocks to the bodega on Roosevelt Avenue. The one with the cat that sleeps on the lottery tickets. Old Mr. Patel nodded as I grabbed black coffee and a day-old bagel. His TV blaring the coverage. You see this? Avery? Your brother big shot.
Ha.
Now look. He chuckled, ringing me up. Karma. American style. $10 says he cries on Dateline. I forced a smile, but inside, it twisted. Harlan crying?
Nah.
He'd plot. Always did. And plot he did. By evening, the doorbell buzzed, insistent, like a hornet trapped in the wall. I peered through the peephole. 2 suits. Badges glinting. NYPD. Mr. Winters? Detective Ruiz. Need to ask about your brother. My gut dropped. They hauled me downtown in the back of an unmarked cruiser, the city lights smearing past like accusations. Interrogation room, fluorescent buzz, styrofoam coffee that tasted like regret. Ruiz, a no-nonsense Latina with eyes like laser sights, slid a folder across the table. Harlan says you threatened him. With a gun. Back in June. And now this hotel stunt? Smells like coercion. I leaned back, the metal chair cold against my spine. Gun wasn't loaded. Just a prop. And the hotel? Public record. Check the liens, they're legit. She tapped the folder. Photos spilling out. Me at the rehearsal. Harlan's panicked face. Hargrove on the mic. The flash drive. Now in evidence lockup. Your prints are all over it. Avery. And get this, files show you accessed firm servers while you were inside. Parole violation.
Shit.
I'd been careful, using Lila as a proxy. But Harlan's IT goons were sharks. They'd traced it back, pinned it on me like a scarlet letter. Hours blurred. They grilled me on the embezzlement, the cover-up, Dad's death. I stonewalled, lawyered up with a public defender who looked like he'd slept in his suit. Plea for immunity, he muttered. They want Harlan bad. You're the key. Immunity. The word dangled like bait. Spill on my brother. Walk free. Betray the betrayer. Poetic. In a twisted Hammett way. But as they led me to holding, past the bullpen where cops swapped Black and Deckers and war stories, I caught a glimpse of the TV. Elena on the steps of family court. Kids in tow.
Tear-streaked.
Avery's a monster. He destroyed us for spite. The kids, little Harlan Jr., with his gap-toothed grin. And Sophie, clutching a stuffed reindeer, looked lost, eyes wide as the flashbulbs popped. Monster.
Yeah.
Maybe. But spite?
Nah.
This was 16 years of silence screaming back. Bail came courtesy of Lila, $5,000 she couldn't afford, scraped from her severance. She waited outside the precinct, bundled in a pea coat, breath fogging the December air. Harlan's holed up at the estate, talking plea of his own. We walked to her Subaru. The city a Christmas card gone wrong, garish lights strung over potholes, Santa's ringing bells for the homeless. You think he'll flip on you? She asked, merging into traffic. Flip? Harlan doesn't flip. He faints. I stared out at the Hudson, black as ink under the bridge. Remember that time in college? He wrecked Dad's Porsche joyriding. Blamed the gardener's kid. Got the poor bastard deported. Lila nodded, jaw tight. She'd seen the memos. The cover-ups. This is bigger. Feds are circling RICO charges. If he goes down, he takes everyone. Including you. If you don't get ahead of it. We ended up at her place in Astoria. A cozy walk-up with fairy lights and a menorah half-lit on the windowsill, her Jewish ex's leftover Hanukkah cheer. She poured bourbon.
Neat.
And we sat on the couch, the weight of it all pressing like an invisible hand. Why'd you do it? Avery? Really? Her eyes searched mine, green and unflinching. I swirled the glass, amber catching the lamp's glow. Because holding it in was killing me slower than any cell.
And because part of me wanted them to see me.
Not the screw-up. Not the poor relation.
Me.
She leaned in, lips brushing my cheek, soft.
Tentative.
They saw. Whole world seeing. We kissed then, bourbon sharp and desperate, hands fumbling with buttons in the half-dark. It wasn't love. Not yet, more like two survivors sharing body heat against the storm. Afterward, tangled in sheets that smelled of lavender and regret, she whispered, "What's next?" I didn't know. But as her breathing evened into sleep, I slipped my phone from the nightstand. A text from an unknown number. We need to talk.
Ash.
Harlan. The estate. 6 a.m. Trap? Maybe. But unfinished business doesn't resolve itself. Dawn broke brittle. The kind of cold that cracks lips and tempers. Lila drove me to Greenwich. The Subaru's wipers batting at flurries like weary eyelids. The estate loomed at the cul-de-sac's end, colonial monstrosity with gables like clenched fists. The lawn dusted white, icicles daggering from the eaves. No lights on, but Harlan's Bentley crouched in the drive like a predator. "Be careful," Lila said,
Killing the engine.
I nodded, pocketing the burner she'd lent me, insurance. The door creaked open on the third knock. Harlan in a silk robe, hair tousled, eyes bloodshot. Come to gloat. No warmth, just exhaustion. He led me to the study, Dad's old lair. Bookshelves groaning with first editions no one read. A decanter of scotch sweating on the desk. He poured 2 glasses, handed me one. To family, he toasted, voice flat as the Connecticut horizon. I sipped, the burn steadying me. Cut the shit. Harlan. What's the play? He sank into the leather chair.
The throne Dad died in.
Plea deal. Feds want names. I give him yours. The old cover-up. And I walk with probation. Community service. Maybe. His gaze hardened. Or you recant. Tell him the drive was fake. Revenge porn. We rebuild. Recant. The word slithered like a deal with the devil. And Mom?
Elena?
The kids. Elena files for divorce either way. But the kids. They need their uncle.
Ave.
The stable one. Stable.
Me.
With my rap sheet and ramen diet. He leaned forward. The brother I remembered peeking through the cracks, the one who taught me to skip stones on Long Island Sound. We were kids once. This ends now. My fist clenched around the glass. Kids.
Yeah.
Until he sold me out. You killed Dad. The words hung, heavier than the snow piling outside. Harlan froze, then laughed, a hollow bark. Heart attack. You saw the autopsy. Bullshit. The files, brake lines tampered. Brake fluid laced with antifreeze. You wanted the firm.
Got it?
With me as your fall guy on the side. His face crumpled. Not denial, but defeat. It was mercy.
Ave.
He was drowning us in debt. Gambling on bad trades. I saved the legacy.
Saved.
For himself. I set the glass down. Deliberate.
Legacies, dust now.
And I'm done saving yours. I turned for the door, but his voice stopped me. Wait. One more thing. He slid an envelope across the desk, manila.
Sealed.
Read it. Then decide. I took it. The paper crisp as fresh lies.
Outside.
The wind howled, trees bending like supplicants. Lila idled at the curb, engine rumbling. As I tore it open in the passenger seat, the words blurred. A letter. Dad's scrawl. Dated the week he died. Avery, if you're reading this, Harlan's in too deep. The firm's rotten core is the '92 merger, offshore shells, bribes to senators. I covered for him once, like you'll cover now. But know this, the plaza key, it's yours. Hidden in the safe. Combo your birthday. Burn it all, if you must. Forgive me. Dad.
The key.
To the hotel. The money trail. Everything. Dad hadn't trusted Harlan either. He'd bet on me, the too poor kid, to right the wrongs. Lila's Subaru ate pavement back to the city, the envelope burning a hole in my coat pocket like a live coal. Dad's letter. Forged? No. The slant of the A, the ink bleed from his Mont Blanc, real as the scar on my knuckle from that prison yard brawl. He'd known. All along. He'd played the long game, slipping me the plaza as a Trojan horse. Combo my birthday, 0307. Simple. Sentimental. The kind of code only a father would use for his overlooked son. We hit Midtown by noon. The streets a snarl of yellow cabs and harried shoppers lugging Bergdorf bags. Lila dropped me at the plaza service entrance. Less eyes. More shadows. Call if it's hot, she said, squeezing my hand. Her touch lingered. A promise or a plea. I watched her taillights vanish into the slush, then slipped inside, the back halls echoing with the ghosts of last night's gala, crumpled napkins, a forgotten champagne cork. Hargrove met me in the basement office, a windowless bunker smelling of stale coffee and printer toner. The new management, faceless suits from the lien holders, had him on cleanup duty, cataloging the winter's leavings. Mr. Winters, he greeted, British crispness undimmed. Your timing's impeccable. The safe's untouched. He led me to the sublevel vault, a steel beast behind a retinal scan, irony. That. For a family blind to its own rot. Combo punched, 0307.
Click.
Inside, ledgers yellowed with age. USBs fat with data. And the key brass, engraved with a tiny evergreen, like the lobby tree. '92 merger, I murmured, rifling the files. Dad's notes scrawled in margins, payoffs to Albany hacks. Kickbacks from Russian oligarchs laundering through Jersey shell core. Harlan's digital trail picked up where Dad left off, more aggressive. Bloodier. One file stopped me cold. Elena's name.
Looped in red.
Not just a trophy wife. She'd signed off on falsified invoices. Her sorority charm masking a shark's grin. The kids?
Clean.
Thank God. But the empire? A house of cards laced with dynamite. Hargrove cleared his throat. The feds rang this morning. Harlan's talking. Naming names. Including mine. No doubt. I pocketed the key. Zipped the files into my backpack. Thanks, Hargrove. For the assist. He waved it off. Consider it restitution. Your brother's brief tenure was eventful. Eventful. Understatement of the year. I emerged into the lobby. The tree now denuded. Needles carpeting the marble like fallen soldiers. A skeleton crew mopped up. Holiday tunes swapped for the hum of industrial vacs. My phone buzzed. Mom. Estate.
Now.
Alone. Urgency in the ellipsis. Trap 2? Or surrender. The train to Greenwich was a ghost ride. Empty seats. The conductor's voice crackling over the PA like a bad omen. Snow thickened, blanketing the tracks in hush. The estate, when I arrived, thrummed with low voices. Lawyers in the parlor. Elena on the sun porch. Phone glued to her ear. Voice pitched in that Valley Girl whine.
Daddy.
It's a witch hunt. He framed us. Harlan intercepted me in the foyer. Gaunt in a cashmere sweater. The robe traded for armor. Kitchen, he muttered. No preamble. Mom was there. At the butcher block island we'd carved initials into as kids. A pot of mulled wine simmering on the Viking range. The air thick with cloves and cinnamon. Mocking the rift. She looked smaller. The Botox failing at the edges. Crow's feet clawing free. Avery. Hug attempt. Rebuffed. Harlan poured wine. Hands steady, too steady. We found Dad's letter. So that's the play. Leverage. I sipped. The spice biting. And we burn it, Harlan said, sliding a matchbook across. All of it.
The files. The key.
Plea deals on the table, joint custody for the narrative. Family reconciliation. Press eats it up. Mom nodded. Eyes pleading. Elena drops the monster talk. We sell the estate. Downsize. Start fresh. For the grandchildren.
Fresh.
As if you can launder blood off the family crest. I set the glass down. The key heavy in my pocket. Fresh how? You skate. I eat the perjury rap. Feds don't buy fairy tales. Harlan. His jaw ticked. You think I want this? Elena's lawyered up, prenups ironclad. But the kids. Sophie asked why Uncle Avery hates us.
Hate.
The word landed like a sucker punch. Sophie. With her pigtails and questions about why stars fall. Mom stepped closer. Hand on my arm, cool. Trembling. He didn't mean the gun. Avery. That rehearsal. He was scared. Like we all are now.
Scared.
Harlan. Scared? The boy who'd hot-wired the neighbor's boat at 14. Laughing as we skimmed waves under moonlight. But that was before. Before the firm. The fall. The fracture. I pulled away. The key slipping into my palm. Scared's what I felt in that cell. Counting days while you toasted my sacrifice. This ends my way. Harlan's eyes narrowed, calculating. Always. Your way gets us all buried. Think.
Ave.
Blood. Blood again. I flipped the key between fingers. Catching light. Dad bet on me. Not you. The admission hung. Then shattered as Elena burst in. Phone dangling. Face streaked. Harlan. Reporters at the gate. Avery's doing. Flashbulbs. No doubt. tipped by my burner to the post. Chaos engine revved. Harlan whirled on me, mask slipping. You bastard. After everything, he lunged, but I sidestepped, the key gouging my palm. Mom screamed, wine sloshing red across the tiles like a crime scene stencil. Elena dialed 911. Voice shrill. Intruders attacking. Send cars. Intruder. In my childhood home. I bolted for the back door. Snow crunching underfoot as I vaulted the garden wall. Backpack thumping. Sirens wailed distant. Closing fast. Lila's text lit my screen. Where are you? Feds at my place. Harlan named you. Named me. The fall guy.
Encore.
I hit the woods behind the estate. Branches whipping. Breath fogging in ragged bursts. The key, Dad's last gambit, felt like a noose now. Burn it? Use it? The files could bury Harlan deeper than Riker's. But Elena's complicity meant collateral. Her. The kids. Mom's fragile world. Or immunity. Rat out the rotten core. Walk with a clean slate. But branded the snitch forever. Panting in a thicket. Cops' lights strobing through trees like faulty halos. I made the call. Not to Lila, too hot. To Hargrove. The 92 files send to the U.S. Attorney. Anonymously. And the key? Mail it to Sophie. Her birthday. Kid deserved a fresh start. Untainted. Hargrove paused. Then, consider it done, sir.
Click. Sir.
Again. As blue and whites prowled the perimeter, I melted deeper into the whiteout. The estate shrinking behind, a mausoleum for the winters we'd been. Revenge? Delivered.
Bittersweet.
But as the cold numbed my fingers, Dad's words echoed, forgive me. Forgiveness wasn't mine to give.
Not yet.
Maybe never. But in that frozen moment, with sirens fading and snow burying tracks, I felt something shift. Not peace, too American for that. Too jagged. But possibility. The poor kid. Unbound. New Year's Eve dawned like a hangover, hazy. Insistent. The city shaking off its tinsel with horns and half-hearted resolutions. I crashed at a Fleabag motel off the turnpike. The kind with hourly rates and walls thin as regrets. No TV. Just the drone of traffic and the neighbors' muffled arguments bleeding through the plaster. Lila found me there, slipping a keycard under the door with a note. Room 207. Clean slate starts now. She dodged the feds by crashing with her sister in Jersey, spinning a girl's trip alibi. Smart girl. We met in the parking lot. Her in yoga pants and a beanie. Me in borrowed sweats from the motel's lost and found. Harlan's deal's crumbling, she said, handing over a burner. Files hit the prosecutor's desk yesterday, anonymous source. He's lawyered into a corner. Facing 15 minimum. 15. My sentence. Plus interest. Elena had lawyered up too. Countersuing for custody and assets. Painting Harlan as the villain. Me as the catalyst. Mom? Radio silence. But the Post ran a blind item. Socialite matriarch checks into wellness retreat. Nerves frayed by fratricidal fallout. Fratricidal. Fancy word for brothers at war. We drove into the city. Lila's sister's beater wheezing up the west side highway. The skyline jagged against a pewter sky. Fireworks prep buzzed. Confetti cannons on Times Square scaffolds. Vendors hawking glow sticks to tourists bundled like marshmallows. What's the plan? She asked. Eyes on the road. I fingered the burner's edge. Loose ends. First stop, the plaza. Not the ballroom, too haunted, but Hargrove's office, where he'd stashed a courier envelope for me. Inside, a receipt for the keys mailing, addressed to Sophie at Elena's Park Avenue, Pi de Terra. And a bonus, clipped from the safe. A single photo, Dad and me, age 10, at Coney Island. A cotton candy smears on our grins. Harlan photobombed in the background. Mid-eye roll. Dad's note on the back, the real legacy. I tucked it away, a talisman against the tide. Hargrove met us in the lobby, tie loosened, a tumbler of tea in hand. The new owners arrive next week, legit chain from Dubai. Your family's chapter closes. He handed over a severance check, Harlan's final perk. Rerouted. 5 figures. Enough for rent, ramen upgrades, maybe a suit that fit. And this, a USB, slimmer than the last. Redacted copies, for your records. In case of appeals. Appeals. Harlan's specialty. I pocketed it. Thanks. Oh, you. He shrugged, British Reserve cracking a smile. Pay it forward, Mr. Winters. Or sideways, in your case. Sideways.
Yeah.
We hit a diner next, greasy spoon on 9th. Formica counters scarred like old wounds. The waitress calling everyone Han, over eggs and hash that tasted like victory. Lila scrolled news on her phone. Sophie got the key. Elena posted, mysterious gift from guardian angel. Thinks it's from you.
Guardian.
Closer than monster. The kids, untouched. Or, as much as trust fund brats could be. Sophie'd grow up with stories of her uncle, the whistleblower. Maybe spin it into a TED Talk someday. Harlan texted the burner mid-bite meet. Neutral ground. Midnight. Don't be late. Coordinates pinged. The old family pier in the Hamptons. 2 hours east. Neutral? The spot where we'd fished as kids. Dad's ashes scattered there after the heart attack. Symbolic as hell. Lila drove. The beater's headlights carving tunnels through the dusk. Hamptons in winter. Ghost towns of shuttered mansions. Dunes whipped bare. The Atlantic roaring like it held grudges. We parked a quarter-mile out. Trudged the beach path. Salt wind stinging cheeks. Midnight tolled from some distant church. Waves crashing punctuation. Harlan waited at the pier's end. Overcoat flapping like raven wings. A lantern at his feet casting long shadows. No entourage, just him. Gaunt and gale-tossed. Avery. No bro. No little brother. We stood shoulder to shoulder, staring at the black water. The lantern's glow dancing on foam. It's over. Over? I echoed. Hands jammed in pockets against the bite. Feds say 20. Minimum. Elena's divorcing. Mom's in rehab. He nodded.
Slow. Deserved.
All of it. The admission hung, raw as flayed skin. Wind howled, carrying cries of gulls. Dad's letter. He knew I'd break bad. Wanted you to fix me.
Fix.
Like I was the family welder, patching leaks with my own bones. Why tell me now? I asked, voice nearly lost to the surf. Because you're the only one left who remembers the good parts. He pulled a flask scotch, Dad's brand, and offered it. I took a swig, fire down the throat. The firm?
Dissolving.
Assets seized. Elena gets the kids. The apartment. I get.
This.
He gestured at the empty shore. Nothing. Pity stirred. Unbidden. The golden boy. Dethroned. But pity's a luxury for the unbroken. You chose this, Harlan. The shortcuts. The covers. I took the hit so you could shine. He turned, eyes wet, tears or spray. Hard to tell. And I hated you for it. Every day in that corner office. Seeing your ghost in the margins. But I couldn't stop. The rush. A wave smashed the pilings. Spray drenching us. I'm sorry.
Ave.
For the cell. For the too poor bullshit. For Dad.
Sorry.
The word we'd never traded. It landed soft, dissolving like sugar in the sea. Sorry doesn't rewind the tape, I said. But my voice cracked. Traitor.
No.
But it closes the loop. He stepped back. To the pier's edge. The lantern flickered. Shadows leaping. Take care of them, the kids. Sophie's got your eyes. Stubborn. Harlan, alarm bells.
Gut deep.
He smiled. Faint. The quarterback grin from grainy home videos. Tell Mom. Mary whatever. Then he stepped off. Clean. No splash audible over the roar.
Just gone.
I lunged, grabbing air. The lantern tumbling into the drink. Harlan, screams swallowed by wind. Lila's voice distant. Avery, as she crested the dune. I scanned the waves. Black churn. No sign.
Divers laté.
They said drowning instantaneous. Currents swift. Suicide. The coroner ruled. Or accident. Or the sea's judgment. Lila held me as the cops came, questions blurring into dawn. Harlan's flask bobbed in the shallows, retrieved like evidence of absolution. News spun it tragic. Winters airs Hampton's plunge, scandal's final ACT. Elena buried him quiet. Kids in black velvet. Mom emerging from rehab to eulogize. My golden boy. Lost too soon.
Me?
I faded to the footnotes. Immunity granted. Charges dropped. Whistleblower protections kicking in like a late pardon. The check from Hargrove seeded a fresh start. Community college nights. A gig at a legal aid clinic. Helping the framed and forgotten. Lila stuck. Her laugh thawing the frost. We rang in the new year on her rooftop. Cheap champagne popping as fireworks bloomed over the river. To loose ends, she toasted. I clinked. The keys echo in my pocket now Sophie's. A key to doors unopened. Was it happy? American endings rarely are. Harlan's sorry bought no resurrection. Just a scar that itched in the rain. The family splintered. Elena remarried a venture capitalist. Mom sold the estate for pennies, retreating to Palm Beach bridge clubs. Sophie wrote once. Age 8. Thanks for the key. Uncle A. It opens a secret drawer.
Love. Soft. Love.
The twist that lingered, debatable as any verdict, was Harlan's plunge cowardice or courage, revenge's gift or curse. In the end, they called me too poor, and I proved them speechless. But the silence after? That's the real hook, echoing. Endless. Pulling you under if you listen too close.